I'm here with Nick. Say hi, Nick.
Always lost, always confused.
True. We were supposed to have Yarker, but he lied to us, which is okay. Um, anyway, today we're gonna talk about the ban list.
Again.
Um, yeah, because it's pretty relevant in CDH, unfortunately. But we're gonna talk about it in a good light this time instead of crying about our dock sides.
Hey, look,
And talk
man.
about like our experiences, excuse me, my experiences. Nick hasn't played too much since the ban list, but he has a few games in, and we're gonna talk about our opinions on it, I suppose. Um, in case you guys didn't know, Dockside, Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus got banned. Um, and I suppose Nadu.
Doesn't
Um,
matter. Don't care.
yeah, Nadu doesn't matter. Um, I've got like 30 games in. Nick, you probably have like 4 or 5 games in, I imagine.
Yeah, I think 5 is about right.
Yeah, and you've been playing mostly Ob during that.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 games of Ob and a single Timna Thras game.
Yeah. Um, what's your experience so far without having your best boy, Dockside and Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt?
Well, I think it was kind of interesting because immediately post ban list, the first thing I did was build a deck that makes great use of all 3 of those cards,
Yeah, you made Ob,
and
and it's
which
just like,
people were crying about the deck getting a lot worse and being bad now and not playable. And I just don't think that's the case. I mean,
yeah,
it's slower. Yeah, you're not turboing Ob out as consistently without those rocks, but it still plays just fine. I didn't have any problems playing the game. I think I won at least half the games I played using this list without any of the banned cards.
yeah, and your list isn't even like the most optimized, if we're
Oh no,
being
not
real. Like
even
you have a
close.
lot of sus inclusions in here.
No, this
Um,
list was like half thrown together with just like cards I could find.
yeah,
It's missing some things I wanted to include but couldn't pick up. Um, so I think if you properly optimize an ob list right now, I think you're just fine. I don't
yeah,
think the ban list is as big a deal as people make it out to be. It's 3 cards gone from your list. I mean, granted, you tutored Dockside a lot, but you just have to kind of switch the playstyle a little bit.
yeah. Um, that's basically been my experience as well. We had obviously the doomsday preppers who are like the format's gonna die. And we have one of their lists today. We didn't ask permission, but we just stole it from Moxfield. Shout out, Moxfield. Anyway, they were very Dockside, Jeweled Lotus, and Mana Crypt Hurts turbo strategies. Um, and they've been playing the same uh Timna Jessica deck. We can go to it right here. Timna Jessica list, and they've been still winning just amount as the same amount of games, if not more games, with the deck. They just had to slightly change their game plan. Like they added a burnt offering as another ritual, and then they went up another land. I believe is the changes they made. Maybe it was 2 lands, but they went up like 2 lands and then another ritual. And then their deck still functions the same. It's a little bit slower, and there's a lot less explosiveness, but you're fine with that when you're playing this Mardu value deck. Oh, I guess they did make it more of a reanimator package, which I forgot. But seeing the Villas reminds me that they're on more of the reanimation package.
Yeah, the Razakat's in there.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a definitely more reanimation, but that's okay because you're playing your Hope of Gearper's Aurum Chance, your silences, all these effects that make it so when you do go for the win, you're gonna win the game. If they resolve, which is like the whole point of the deck anyway. And I think honestly, like the dockside, um, made you play into the Ristics if you weren't careful enough. Like if you play a silence and it gets countered, but you have dockside in hand, you're still tempted to just jam your win. Um, but now you don't need to jam your win. You'll wait until you get another silence effect. So I think the deck is just as fine as where it was. It's a little less slow, but I like the deck a lot. It's still very scary. Um, Talented Pilot, obviously. As I think all the decks we're gonna go through have talented pilots, except maybe Piper. Um,
No, the Ob guy, I don't know, man.
he's a little sus. I've been trying to convince him. I'm gonna convince this player to be on more surveillance. He just recently went up Shadowy Backstreet when the bans happened. This is the land that they added, and they've been really enjoying it. So I think I'm gonna be able to convince him to go up two more, which I think is the correct decision.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
think the more the format slows down, the more those lands are going to shine.
yeah,
Because you can just play it out of hand and not feel that bad. And obviously, fetching for it is still phenomenal.
yeah, for sure. Um, I'm looking at their sideboard. Very cool stuff.
Oh, Razaketh is in the
Um,
sideboard. I see.
yeah,
That's what that was.
I I think they might have it mainboard currently. Um, this might not be their exact updated list. But I think Razaketh is in there because I think I lost to it on Thursday. To a Razaketh, but maybe they just took it out. I'm not gonna go up because I don't want to share the name. Um, just in case they don't want their deck to be out and about because we didn't ask permission. Um, but yeah, Turbo deck didn't get affected. It got slightly slower, but now it has more of a grind factor because that's what you pivot your deck to. And it's awesome. The deck's super sweet to play against. And annoying, I will say.
That's the thing. If everybody gets slower, nobody really gets slower. Because
Correct.
comparatively, like, you're
Yeah,
still winning at the same speed by comparison to other decks.
I think it is interesting because when you, what I've noticed in the current games is that my games against like Blue Farm, or Malcolm Kedis or these top tier decks that are like you will see these at tournaments are a lot closer now, than where they were before, where I had to mulligan down two exactly fish or Ristic Study or Commandeer to be even close in the game. Like I can keep these slower ish hands that are more clunky just because everyone else is keeping these slower, clunkier hands when they're not getting their turn one Timnas or they're not getting their turn one Malcolms out, where you're like, oh shoot, they're going to be making three additional mana every turn for the next however long the game goes. Um, so I think the bad decks got a big bump. Not even a big bump, a smaller bump down than the better decks, and I think
Yeah.
that's super cool.
I think part of where that closeness in games is coming in against like Blue Farm and decks that can realistically pull off or could previously pull off multiple win attempts in a turn is kind of that loss of dockside. They no longer have the mana in a single turn to go,
Yeah,
okay, you countered me, you stopped me. Here's this other win con that I had in my hand. I will now put this on the stack because I have the mana to do that. Fight over the first one, present the first one, present a second one, and still protect it.
yeah. There's something we can do. Um, I'll go here, and because this is your list, we'll get rid of it for the
Rude.
time being. We're gonna go to. He's just a little guy. This is my Fibblefip list. Um, it's pretty good. It hasn't been updated, obviously. It's been updated in person. Just not on the list yet. Um, which we'll leave it in for now. I won't try adding a change. I want to go to share, copy URL. We're going to use this later, but there's a pretty big comparison I want to make between my deck and uh, my Fibblefip list and my current mono blue list that I'm looking at. And then this list is super cool. It's one of the local players. They play Sarah Jane and the Third Doctor like pretty regularly, like every other week. This is the deck that they're playing. Um, the deck's super sick. Sarah Jane gets you like instrumental value that people don't realize is actually really good value. And then the Third Doctor can either be a beater or even if it's coming in and making you a treasure, it gives you mana to tap out for your commander and then have mana for interaction. They spend a lot of time on the list, but one of the things that they were struggling with the dockside out is their commanders. Like there's times where they can't progress their game plan. Like there's been games where they couldn't play a Consphinx out because they had Sarah Jane with like two clues out. And they were like, we can just lose to a dockside now. But we're giving these opportunities to these bad or like fringe decks because this deck's not bad by any means. A chance to shine without Dockside, which I think is like the biggest thing. And this is like a pretty good list to see it because the idea is that you make infinite mana with like Derevi, Gaia's Cradle, and Flicker the third Doctor to make infinite clues and treasures, draw your deck, win the game with many of the ways to win. Um, and that's not something that you really got to see before Dockside got banned, which I think is really cool.
Hey, it's also banned food chain. Shout out.
Yeah. Is this one on the food chain? It is, yeah.
Should be.
I know
Yep.
some of the lists that he played weren't on food chain, I believe. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I just never saw it when they drew their deck. But this is a list that I constantly lose to, just because it can attack from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, and it did get a big buff with not having to accidentally feed Dockside so many so much mana.
Yeah, and then a card that we were talking about before the episode, Blind Obedience. Um, we were wondering, we were thinking, or we were puzzled on why people are still on Blind Obedience. And I wanted to talk more about it in the episode. I wish we had Parker here as well to get his opinion on it because we kind of discussed it. But I came to the conclusion that maybe it's for like Grim Monolith and Mox, not Mox, Mana Vault, because they enter tapped and then they don't untap. But I don't know if that's good enough. Maybe the One Ring. Me and Nick are both kind of puzzled on why we're still on Blind Obedience.
Yeah. But previously it was able to hold off Docksides for an entire turn, which is huge because it gives you time to prepare.
Or clone it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there that you could do. Currently, I only really see a home for it in lists that are making use of Extort.
Yeah. I
As
guess
a
this
win
is.
con.
Yeah, I guess this deck does use Extort to win the game sometimes. So it makes
It
sense in here.
could, but I think there's enough other options that I don't know. I don't remember what
Well,
else this list is on.
they go. One of their big lines is Finale, but if Finale gets like exiled, they have to win with the Extort. I
Okay.
believe. So it's
Then
in
yeah,
there
in
for
here
a
it's
win con.
probably fine.
But we were just looking at an Atraxa list with it in, and I don't think it's used in that list for Extort. I could be wrong on that, but it wasn't really a list that cast infinite non-creature, infinite spells with infinite mana.
Yeah, the only infinite looping was through food chain, which doesn't let you extort. So
Yeah. So win
um,
cons, it makes sense in here, but maybe it's just like a meta thing where the meta needs to adjust taking it out because it was just one of the best stacks piece in the game, and now we adjust to a different stacks piece maybe.
yeah, I think the only win con I could think up that this is holding off right now is Dualcaster, which is not a common line right now with
No,
Twin
not at
Flame.
all.
And the decks that are Dualcastering you, a lot of the time they're either Son having to combo it with like an Ewit or a Bowmaster, or they're just Son having on the end step, in which case the tokens will exist on tap and then murder you anyway.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So that was an interesting include, and I do want to talk about food chain. I feel like the combo did get a massive bump. Because like Corvold wasn't a lot of the lists weren't on food chain because Dockside was around and you can Dockside chain. But now if you want to play Corvold, you're like regulated to a food chain, which I think is cool. And then like Atali, food chain becomes much higher of a priority than it was because you could just hit the dock side and then chain through your opponent's decks. So I think that's a cool bump in the meta is that food chain becomes more of a relevant card.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think both of the lists you just named have taken such massive hits that they
I
might not be around
I agree. I
nearly as
have
much.
hope that Corvold and Atali will find a way to adapt because Corvold seems to be in a deck that can adapt to almost any meta. And then Atali, I think, is just a powerhouse of a magic card
Yeah,
that people are
I've
going to be
as a
playing it.
like former Corvold player, I've just been pondering it and I've been thinking a lot. And it's really like when I'm looking at Jund, the win cons for Corvold right now are just going to be generic Jund win cons that you could slot in any other shell. You're going to play your Dualcaster, your Wither Smog, your The food chain is the only possibly unique one.
Yeah, you do get access to Grave Crawler and the new Squirrel Wizard that you can sack a creature, create a treasure, draw a
Yeah,
card.
which are they're okay engines, but like they're clunky two-piece combo engines that don't necessarily win the game,
Yeah,
especially without a big mana fixer after like Darkside.
yeah, yeah. So I think the list has to take like a different form, which I think is cool because we saw kind of the same dockside Corvold list ever since Ryan pulled 15 out from the side of his desk.
True. But my thought process after that is if I'm just kind of gonna play generic Jund, why would I not want Rograk in the command zone
No,
for
that's
to
super fair.
enable my culling, my diabolic intent, my other mana sources that are cheap and free. It
Have you
just
thought about Big Dragon?
I love the big dragon, but most of his loops are gone. And what made him an efficient draw engine was tittering Dockside every game.
Yes, yeah,
Now he's just a clunky 5-drop that's hard to get out without Lotus and Crypt
yeah,
and doesn't do that much.
yeah. That's super fair. I have faith. Um, okay, now for the cool list. We had Throbbing Ob, which is a great name, and then Doctor Doctor and Cruel Summer, which are tame names, and then now we have Piper. Hardly know her. I came up with that today. Anyway, uh, this is the deck I've been playing. The deck's gas. I don't know what else to say.
Bro, I hate this thing.
Have you played against it yet?
Yes, you beamed me with like a 15-15 Piper. I
Hey,
hate it here.
Piper's cool.
I
Um,
tried to I tried to Mockingbird Piper and you mana drained it.
oh
What
yes,
the
yeah, I
fuck?
remember that game because you were like, I need card advantage, and I was like, no.
Yeah, it was like a flying Piper? That sounds sick. And then I got
Yeah,
mana drained on a 2-drop Mockingbird.
yeah. Uh, the list is super sick. I'm still on a bunch of test cards. I still have to figure out what's good, what's not. Like, I think tomorrow is our weekly event that a lot of people go to and is the best place to test. I think Harbinger's gonna come out. I think Danny Pink's gonna come out. Spellseeker's probably gonna come out, and there's a few other cards in here that I think are gonna come out. Um, but I really wanted to talk about Piper as a concept, as like a proof that the dockside banning was a good thing. Because Piper Wright, insane commander. The amount of value you get off of this 2-drop 1/2 is really insane. The people who I've played with have been like, I think that's just the real deck, and I'm like, yeah, it feels like a real deck. And that's saying something because I've been playing Fibblefip for so long, and I think this card is like my new love. I think Fibblefip might just never come back, and I might just only play Piper with how good the deck actually honestly is, um, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, if you know this guy, him giving up Fibblethip is like like who are you? Who
Yeah,
possessed
and
you?
yeah, it's really been crazy like how busted this deck kind of is, and I've on like 12 cards that I'm testing. Like I'm on Tamio's Journal, which I think is just one of the best cards in the deck currently. We're on Prophetic Memory. We're on so many weird test cards that like Driftwood Phantasm. You never see that in any list because it seems bad, but in this list it's mediocre, which is really cool.
Upgrades are upgrades, people.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but without Dockside being in the format, you are able to play a commander like this because the idea of the deck is turn one Piper, turn two attack, pass the turn because you're a control deck. End step, since you didn't have to stop a win, or you did have to stop a win, crack a clue, make her bigger, go to your turn three, attack, make two clues. That's the entire game plan. There will become a point where you crack like two clues and then attack, make seven clues. And if there was a dockside out in the format, there'll be like finale for two, get dockside, make 19 treasures off of you, and then you never bring this deck out to play ever again. But as soon as Dockside went away, I looked at the mono blue commanders, and I was like, okay, Urza's definitely a good card. We know Urza's gonna be a good deck. And then I saw this card, I read it, and I was like, this reads really good. And so far it's been playing really good. Of course, there's a tournament coming up in the end of next week, I think it is. Um, and I'm probably gonna get poly swamped because I think I'm playing this deck just to give it uh competition really, to see how well it does. But shout out Dockside being banned because it allowed cool strategies like this. There's probably many more strategies. Like I could see Oscar, the Boros guy, coming out and playing again. Because there was when he first came out, um he was a CDH deck when he first came out. Okay, that's
When you
not what I
say
wanted.
Oscar,
Osgar?
because Oscar was a Demir guy at a Capenna,
No, no, no.
the discard one. What are you thinking
There's
of?
a
Are you thinking of
Osgar?
Jan Jansen?
No,
Mardu?
no. He was
Oswald?
a no.
Okay.
Okay, he was a Boros precon. Um, let me do this. MTG Boros precon commander from oh, okay. Oh yeah, I'm really good at typing. Um, nope. Okay, what he does is you can tap him and right here, Oscar, the Reconstructor. He's a 4/4 Vigilance. You can sack an artifact. That part doesn't matter. X tap it. Exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard. Create 2 tokens that are copied of the X out card. Activate only as a sorcery. This was a fringe CDH deck when it first came out. And then Dockside was like, wait, you like making a ton of artifacts? Bend you over. And then the deck no longer was a thing. This thing can come back,
Wait, wait, wait.
and that's sick.
Oh my god. Is this a deck that can actually play Pull from Eternity?
Probably Oswald, another deck. I was talking about this recently.
Okay, well. Well.
We'll look him up. He's one of my favorite commanders of all time. I played him in CDH for a little bit. The deck is mediocre, but you want to know what you lost to every single game? Dockside. You want to know what you had to play? You had to play Blind Obedience, Torpor Orb. You had to play all these different stacks pieces just to stop Dockside. You want to know what you don't need to play anymore? These stacks pieces to stop Dockside. You get to play good cards now. I didn't have to sack my Soul Ring for a Torpor Orb in response on my turn because I knew someone tutored up a Dockside. I don't need to do that anymore. This deck's yes, I promise you.
I just want it to be instant speed.
I know you want it to be instant speed. You
If
want to know what
Yisan
other
can
deck
be, why not this?
gets buffed? Magda. You want to know what the person that in our area that plays Magda said? I don't care about losing Dockside. I'm a good enough pilot. I don't need it. Yes, you're right. Thank goodness. You want to know what you don't feed anymore? Dockside.
Yeah. No, this deck is better in my opinion. You lose like the instant just on my turn dockside 0 to 5 treasures, but you also just don't feed the shit out of a card that will lose to your opponents that are playing, generally speaking, a higher card quality than you are.
Exactly.
Because they
Like
play dockside and go off on their breach while you're sitting there with Portal to Phyrexia and 2 random ass dwarves in hand.
this card. Also, Academy Manufacturer. Big buff. Any deck that ever wanted to touch this card gets a huge buff.
This is true.
One more card. We're going to look up one more card.
There
Will.
will be more.
MTG. No. Right here. Will the Wise. This card's insane. You want to know what I kept on doing when I played this deck? Playing this turn 1 and then losing turn 1 because I gave everyone clues that they couldn't crack. Guess what won't happen anymore? Us losing the game.
Well, maybe
This
not.
is a
But
godsend.
I don't know if that turn 1 is well. Anyway.
Anyway, uh, I'm so happy that Dockside's gone. The other cards suck that they're gone. I'll be real, but Dockside allows so much creativity. Um, that's why I just copied Fibblefip's deck list real quick. Is because we can compare.
Oh yeah, we're gonna look at all the things that you ran to compete against Dockside.
Yes. Okay. This is the stuff in Fibblefip that's no longer in. So WinCon. This is a card that I'm still testing, but we don't need to play Stern Scolding, Tail's End, Strict Serenade, Trick Bind, Portcullis. We don't need to play like 6 cards. I was on 6 additional cards just to stop Dockside. That's insane.
Yeah.
And now I get to play cool cards like Academy Manufacturer, Danny Pink,
The GOAT,
Disruptor Flute.
Forensic Gadgeteer. Okay, let's not talk about Flute. I don't like that card.
Yeah, I like that card. Name Thrasios, I promise.
I know. I'm aware.
But yeah, you get to the creativity is through the roof now, and I think that's exciting. Um, we're having people playing weird decks like the Amanatu deck. It's not good, but people are playing it.
This is true.
Yeah, we get to see these bad decks have a chance now.
I do love me some bad decks.
I won't be surprised if Lucas pulls up on Thursday with Sithis.
I
That was
will be
one of his
mildly
babies.
afraid.
You want to know what he lost to every time? Dockside. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm pretty happy.
You know, what I gathered from this is that more people should have been on OOF pre-ban.
No, I agree. I think Oof is really good. We can go to one of my decks, called Angel Cat. This list was supposed to be Hell's Cat ripoff, where I was playing Timna Thrasios instead of Thrasios Vile Smasher and be like a Storm deck with Displacer Kitten. And then I played Collector Oof because I wanted to see how it was. And I was like, wait, this card's insane. So I went on. I was on Null Rod. I'm not on Null Rod in this version, but I was on Collector Oof. I was on these Artifact Stacks pieces because I was like, wait, this is insane. They can't win the game. This is awesome. Um, and I hurt my own deck, my own strategy. My only real win con was Displacer Kitten, which wasn't even in the final list. Um, oh, it's right here. I'm so drunk today. Um, was Displacer Kitten loop, make infinite mana, draw your deck with Thrasios. That was the win con. I had to kill my own stacks pieces.
Yeah.
And the deck was mediocre, let me tell you.
You know what card? I've actually got it in my hands right now because I was thinking about it earlier. I was just going through my deck box to find it. I think I'm gonna slide in and test tomorrow. Pick your poison.
I like that card.
Because currently, here's my thought process. The
I'll type it
artifacts
in.
we're playing are really good, like relied on and needed because we have so few of them. We're not going to have as many rocks, so losing one of the ones we have is brutal. If you shoot an enchantment from each player, I guarantee to you those were good enchantments you hit because nobody is playing bad enchantments right now. Except maybe
That's
like
fact.
except maybe blind obedience, but the verdict's still out. But like you're gonna hit at least one Ristic or
Yeah.
something. Flying, that you
Hit
won't
a
really
Chrome.
use that, but sometimes you'll be sitting against like Atraxa, Crom, somebody will have a Mockingbird out for giggles. Like I don't know. There's scenarios where that one could come up. But the
Yeah.
first two are strong enough.
Yeah,
And
I
it's just a
agree.
silly little one drop. It's a little tempo play. It's
I
great.
agree. I think you should test this card, especially enchantment thing. You're gonna hit either Fish, Ristic, Smothering Tithe.
Yeah.
Can I talk about Smothering Tithe for half a second?
I think it's the best card in the format right now.
It is the best card in the format. I want to kill myself every time someone resolves a Smothering Tithe.
It
I put
makes me
Commandeer
so happy to resolve Smothering Tithe.
and a Piper just because Smothering Tithe is still in the format and it's broken.
True. Ben saying.
But I'm okay with it because you want to know what stopped Smothering Tithe in the past? Dockside.
Well, no.
Yeah. Well, Smothering Tithe was still an insane card, but someone can be like cast Oxide, and then you would willingly sack your treasures because you're like, I'll get more.
Yeah, I would sack my treasures and spin Thrasio 7
Yeah,
times.
no, you're a problem, okay? But Brandon, last Thursday there was a game where me and Brandon, he's on Timna Francisco. He landed a turn 2 Smothering Tithe. There was 4 turns in a row where he had 30 or more treasures. And he's used almost all of them every turn.
Yeah.
My brain hurts that game. We
Yeah.
didn't lose.
Probably should have.
We probably should have. He misplayed. Um, but we ended up getting a draw because we're working on Piper. I took infinite turns in turns. Turns out that doesn't win you the game. But yeah.
Infinite turns at turns. It's kind of funny though.
Anyway, to recap, thank goodness Dockside's out of my goddamn format.
True.
I guess one more thing we can do is we can go here and then connections. These are all the people I follow. Here's Dad. By Dad I mean Atlas. Because if you didn't know, his deck was a Dockside deck. And we can see what he changed. He
I'm
won't
gonna be
mind that.
real. I don't think it was even a Dockside deck. Every time I lost this deck, it was through a Spellseeker, Displacer, Wit, Dark Writ, Slaughter Pact line, where he was
Oh,
making infinite mana through those.
I'm the complete opposite. Every time I lost to this deck, it was because he resolved a Dockside.
I think I deleted his Dockside every time it hit the board.
That's fair. He was on Birthing Pod. Oh, in the sideboard. Okay. Archdruid's Charm. Interesting. I know. Ooh,
Excuse me?
that's some Bailey tech right there. I didn't tell him about that card yet. This
You
is
know, I'm
crazy.
shocked you haven't played that deck yet.
It's currently sitting on my desk.
Yeah, that checks out. I want to put that card in Derevi, to be honest. Am I a bad person?
No.
Maybe a little
Well,
bit.
yeah. Um, yeah. I talked to Alice a little bit, and he said that Cloud of Fairies is just basically a replacement for Dockside. You can't do the same broken stuff you could do with Dockside, but I understand the philosophy. Um, and then Agatha's, which I think is a sweet Kenrith tech. I don't know exactly how this deck is going to work without Dockside. Um, Also interesting that they're on Strict Serenade at the moment.
Dude, I love Agatha so much. I would play her if I were in red.
Yeah.
She's genuinely so fucking cool.
Why don't do Vile Smasher Thrasios decks play Agatha?
They should. I don't think they do. I think it's less played there because it's only ever a reduction of 1.
Yeah.
And you can play Training Grounds and the other dude instead.
Yeah.
But
That's
there
fair.
are definitely ways to mess with Agatha.
That's fair. Um. Yeah. That's basically all I wanted to talk about was how thankful I am Dockside is out of the format because it is brewing creativity up the wazoo. Like I showed you 5, 6 decks now that adapted from Dockside being out of the format. Um, and we're just gonna see a lot more interesting decks and a lot more ideas flow, um, and come out of it, which I think is awesome. Yeah, that's all
Cool.
I had to say. Is there any ending remarks, Dad?
Um, no, yeah, that's about it.
I do
Um,
gotta say, Atlas's list is so pretty because he has all the foils in here and they're
yeah,
accurate.
playing against it is cool. Arcturids, can you hover Arcturids for me real quick?
Yeah, it
Search for a
searches.
creature land, put it on the field if it's a land.
It's good.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that we're choosing. It is an instant, which is
Yeah,
nice,
yeah.
but
It's a little weird in this list
triple green pip is
because I
brutal.
would assume it gets Gaia's Cradle, but you need triple green for that. Let's look at their mana base. They're on 1, 2, 3, 4. They're on all 4 of the duels that tap for green. They're on Beseiju, and then they're on 1, 2,
There are
3,
at least 4 or 5
4,
dorks in
5.
this list that tap for green.
1, 2, 3.
Agatha is no. Wait, different card. Wrong card. 3.
Yeah, I mean that's still probably plenty of green sources. Plus artifacts, I imagine. Yeah, there's Crow, Mox, Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond.
It still could seem a little clunky to me though. Like I think there's
Yeah,
cases where it's
maybe it
not
is
really
like if you
castable.
have guys Cradle out, but you're not really using it for anything then, right? You have a fight spell or exile a One Ring, or like a Rhystic Study. I guess the Rhystic Study thing can be a value.
I mean,
Uh,
instant speed creature tutor.
yeah, yeah, it could be
Uh,
good. I obviously they're testing it because I haven't seen it in their list before. Um, so I'm not hounding their deck list like I used to be. When there was a ton of tournaments, I would look at their list every day and play test hands every day. Which I should probably still do since we have a tournament coming up, so I can talk my opponents through their win lines, and so they won't listen to Atlas when I
Respectfully, we
can
love you,
explain.
Atlas.
I know I do love Atlas. I love playing against them. I just get so mad sometimes when the opponents are like, "I trust Atlas more," and I'm like, "But he has a dark side on the stack. Don't trust him." But I don't need to worry about that anymore, so we're chilling. It's gonna be
Wait.
it's gonna be interesting to see this deck win, um, without the dockside.
Dude,
Honestly,
no, every time I play against it, it doesn't win through dockside. I'm telling you, it can do it. It's
no,
gonna
no,
be
I
just
know it
fine.
can win. I know it can win. Okay, I've done the Displacer Eternal Witness loops. Okay, I've played this list and won without dockside. I'm just saying, like, he sometimes can be greedy with his hands, and he will keep hands that rely on a dockside and have like 1 mana, and he won't draw a land for like 6 turns. Maybe that's only in pods that I play in,
I think
because
that's
he
legit
knows.
just you, because every time against me,
All I know is the last like 6 games I played, he's had 1 land in hand, and he can't cast anything for the longest time. Maybe it's because I'm a mono blue deck and he knows we're gonna live that long. But yeah,
I think that's definitely part of the calculus. You
probably.
want a blue monster.
Well, he shouldn't do that now because my deck doesn't play interaction anymore. Um, yeah. But yeah, that's all I had to talk about, guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas for new mono blue decks for me to play,
Please
um,
don't give him ideas.
let me know. I need more ideas. My brain needs to be distracted or it's scary. Um, Alice is on. Oh, that's his 28. I thought it said 26, and I was like, taking after our Rockside brothers. I see. Um, yeah, but that's everything, guys. Have a good day. Live your best lives. Play Magic the Gathering or One Piece. One Piece is a great card game.